Hey guys, what's going on? So, in this video I want to talk about a spoilery comment that was made by Gwyneth Paltrow not too long ago concerning Avengers 4. So heads up for spoilers for Avengers Infinity War, impossible spoilers for Avengers 4, just possible for Avengers 4, because who really knows? Alright, so with that said, Gwyneth Paltrow, who plays Pepper Potts, she had recently did an interview in the official Avengers Infinity War magazine, and in this interview, she had recently made some comments about the relationship between Pepper Potts and Tony Stark in reference to the evolution of their relationship, which we've seen grow from the past 10 years. But most notably from that interview, she mentioned now that they're married and they have a child. And what's interesting about that, if you think back to Infinity War, not like it was that long ago, but if you remember that scene in the beginning of the film where Tony and Pepper are walking in the park and Tony tells Pepper about this dream that he had and pretty much how his dreams one way or another are coming to reality, a lot like that dream where you gotta pee and then you wake up and you really gotta pee. Yeah, just like that. And he tells Pepper here that he had a dream that she was pregnant, and I'm pretty sure at the time when they were having this discussion, Tony asked her, "Are we?" and she said no. And I'm pretty sure that we got that confirmation shortly after in the film, so we just didn't think that she was pregnant for the next 2.5 hours. But it was pretty clear that this scene served a few purposes. One, planning things for later on in the MCU, and two, making the audience aware once again that Tony's dreams are more than just dreams. Because if anybody spoiled Infinity War before Mark Ruffalo, it was Tony Stark. And not as a literal spoiler, but with Scarlet Witch allowing Tony to see the nightmares that he was already struggling with as if it was a reality, making Tony's dream, or nightmare in this case, seem real. But with Gwyneth mentioning now that Tony and Pepper have a child, this could very much possibly reach back to that one shot out of 14,605,000 where Tony Stark still has to stay alive in order to save everyone who bit the dust in Avengers Infinity War. And I'd also made a mention recently talking about both of Doctor Strange's plans in Avengers Infinity War, and I'll leave a link down in the description if you guys haven't seen it, talking about both plans that Doctor Strange had mentioned, how they play out in Infinity War, and also how they may play out later on in Avengers 4. And when I did that video and I added a theory about how the gauntlet may have been destroyed, I immediately got so many comments about the Russo brothers and their comments on how the finger snap had destroyed the gauntlet, which is definitely a statement that they made. But I've also come to the point of taking their words with a grain of salt, because these guys are the kings of misdirection. And at one point they also said that Captain Marvel was actually in Avengers Infinity War. They led us to believe that Hawkeye was in the film with a very important and secret role. And in the Marvel films that we've seen them do thus far, misdirection is a huge plot point in the method of their storytelling. Like, these are the guys who also went through the extra step of writing a fake script for Avengers Infinity War. And I love it because it's brilliant. This method of organized confusion keeps us from a lot of spoilers, but it also gives us the liberty to shoot for these wild predictions, and in some ways kind of dares us to make a prediction that contradicts something they might say. But either way, I can go on about that forever. I can bring up the Civil War trailers that didn't have Spider-Man in them until the last minute to explode the excitement for the film, or even the genius misdirection of the plot of the film, and how the entire film led us to believe that at the end Cap and Bucky were fighting this team of super winter soldiers, but instead it was a misdirect to a much deeper character payoff. But either way, if you haven't watched Captain America Civil War with director commentary on, be sure to do so, because the Russo brothers go on for a good while about how they use misdirection in a number of their methods, and I really appreciate them for switching it up like that and not making it too predictable. But either way, with that being said, with Gwyneth's statements and with what we know about Doctor Strange and the precautions he took both before and after looking into millions of possibilities, like, all of these things just put a ton of thoughts in my head about how we could see them play out in Avengers 4. And one of the ideas I wanted to throw out there is if they made Kang the son of Tony and Pepper. And so in the comics, Kang is more so related to Reed Richards. He's also from the 30th century, but because of Ant-Man and the Wasp, they wouldn't need to go that far. And when I say that, the first thing that comes to mind is the behind the scene images of Avengers 4 that very much look like time travel's involved. They're back in the Battle of New York, Cap has on his old suit, and they got these weird devices on their hands. And I believe that this time travel was made possible by a collaboration between Tony Stark and Hank Pym. And by the time Avengers 4 comes out, Hank Pym would have successfully had the technology to travel to the quantum realm, primarily to bring back his wife, but I believe with a collaboration with Tony Stark, the two of these ideas and discoveries together, it just spells out time travel. So taking one step deeper into the realm of speculation, with Tony using Hank's discoveries to figure out time travel by way of the quantum realm, this could easily give way to him doing like a video recording and passing this knowledge down to his son. Or better yet, even going to the future to tell him face to face. And that's probably where Tony would find out that his son is named Iron Lad, which is actually Nathaniel Richards' real name in the comics. But this would set up the possibility of Tony and Pepper's child even coming back, seeing Vision destroyed, and repairing him before we even move into phase 4. And Vision of course would be all white because Thanos busts him in the forehead, but you get the picture. But also I want to answer some of the questions you guys had about Hawkeye and his role as Ronin in Avengers 4. And so after seeing Avengers Infinity War, you guys were asking me if his family possibly disappeared with a finger snap, and I think it's quite likely that they did, all except for one, who he would still believe is dead. And much like my Infinity War Ronin video, this will be the reason he became Ronin, and in the MCU never again to be Hawkeye. But if this is done this way, what I would love to see, because we know we're gonna get Skrulls and Captain Marvel, which comes out like a month or two before Avengers 4, but what I would love to see with Clint as Ronin, for him to be reunited with his wife, just like in the comics, but only to find out that his wife is actually a Skrull. Man, like that would completely blow my mind. But that's just part of much of my wishful thinking, along with my thoughts of Tony not only just not dying in Avengers 4, but becoming director of S.H.I.E.L.D. right after. Because it really feels like Kevin Feige setting up Captain Marvel not only to lead the team, but also allow Robert Downey Jr. to exist in the MCU without needing to be in the forefront through phase 4 and beyond. And I feel like this would be the perfect opportunity, with Iron Man saving half the universe, becoming the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., Skrulls surfacing who had been here for decades, with the exception of Hawkeye's wife. I'm only saying that I want the one that comes back to be a Skrull. But this would also set up stories like Siege and Dark Reign to play out in the MCU as an undertone, with Norman Osborn taking over Stark Industries, also acquiring Hammer, which would give the opportunity to introduce a number of characters going into phase 4. But depending on which way they want it to roll out, especially depending on how they want to do Ronin, like if they take the route like I mentioned with one of his family members surviving, they could have his daughter become the new Hawkeye in the future, who Clint would come to discover because of Tony finding out that his son is Kang, and in his timeline in the future, his daughter took on his mantle because she never knew if he survived the finger snap or not. And once again, this will be another example of your Mandarin situation, because in the comics, Kate Bishop becomes Hawkeye, and when he finds out, he's not too happy about it. But those are just a few of my thoughts, mainly going off of Gwyneth's comment. And trust me, prior to hearing her comment, I didn't have much of an Avengers 4 Kang theory, but after her saying that, it did put a few ideas in my head, with the exception of Tony and Hank figuring out time travel. That I was kind of pondering before. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Personally, I hope that this child that Tony and Pepper have does take this route, and it gives us a Kang film like later on down the line. And the things that we see in Avengers 4 really just set the stage for that. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. I got links to my Doctor Strange video talking about both plans from Avengers Infinity War, and also check out my video on the Winter Soldier becoming the new Captain America, and also all the things that have happened in the MCU in the previous films that are already setting that up. And I would add a quote on top of that from the Russo brothers, who did say that they began an arc that started in Winter Soldier and ends in Avengers 4. Just saying, could be true, or we could be chasing our own tail. Only time will tell. But hit me up in the comments and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.